One of the major criticisms of the presidential primary system is that the first two states, Iowa and New Hampshire, are predominantly Caucasian. Tomorrow's caucus in Nevada and the South Carolina primary next week will be the first two elections of the 2020 primary season that are held in states that have sizable minority populations. These primaries will also be the first test to see how the Democratic candidates stand with African American and Latino voters. Two candidates that especially seem to be having issues with this communities are former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg and New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. A recent article in The Nation magazine provided some accounts of Mayor Buttigieg's problems with the African American community, especially concerning an African American police chief being fired and the killing of an African American man named Eric Logan. Bloomberg's stop and frisk policies and his policies of redlining, both of which had devastating effects on communities of color in New York City, are also well documented. The recent debate seemed to have the candidates, especially Elizabeth Warren, taking jabs at Michael Bloomberg. With all of this, it brings up the question of why Bernie Sanders may not have as strong a support among African Americans and Latinos as he should. His platform includes several issues that would be of key concern to these communities, including his support for Medicare for All and College for All, including support for the historically black colleges and universities. His platform also includes housing for all, criminal and racial justice reform, a key part of which is marijuana legalization. He has pledged to improve investment in public education and also has his jobs at a living wage plan. I think part of the reason African American and Latino voters may be leery of supporting Sanders is that they feel that they will be justifying a dog whistle tactic that has long been used by the Republicans to convince rural white voters to vote against their economic interest. They see their support for Sanders and his policies as giving justification for the stereotypical welfare queen that Ronald Reagan and others since have used so effectively to pit the rural poor against their urban counterparts. Another factor may be generational. The older voters of color may see centrists like Joe Biden as more supportable, especially with Biden's ties to President Obama, former President Obama, I should say. But what about millennials? I can imagine that the same issues that affect white millennials, student debt, lack of jobs that pay well and allow college graduates to use their skills, are affecting millennials of color even worse. Now, I have seen on my social media reports and articles that support for Sanders is rising in the African American and Latino community, but the Nevada caucus and the South Carolina primary will be a test to see how much of that is real.